Hey guys, and welcome to my review of Medal of Honor Warfighter's multiplayer component. I'm not going into the options menu, the single player campaign or all the intricate ins and outs. Rather, I'm talking about what matters the most, the core gameplay. The feel of the game, the design, the map layouts, and really my overall impression and whether I think you guys should buy this game. Kicking things off, let me just say, it's not the arcade shooter I think everyone sort of expected it to be. Based on the trailers that were released, I would say most people thought it would be a Call of Duty clone on the Frostbite 2 engine. But that's simply not the case, and if you still think that, then you aren't giving the developers the respect they deserve. Warfighter is its own beast entirely, and actually a very rewarding and tactical experience, especially when playing with a buddy on voice comms. If you rush into the game thinking you're going to do well because you're good at COD, then you're actually going to be quite surprised. If you're too aggressive, you'll be caught out more often than not. You really have to play to your class's strengths. You need to check your corners and reload regular and safely. Switching your weapons takes time too. It feels like you have to fumble around for your pistol before you can finally shoot it. This puts more emphasis on preparation, scanning areas before you move into them, and always looking at the minimap and watching your flanks. What I was most impressed with is actually the feel of the guns in this game and the shooting mechanics. Being a veteran player of first-person shooters and having competed in Counter-Strike at professional level, I'd like to think I have a good idea of what feels good and what just feels average. And trust me, the guns in Warfighter feel really nice. The kick of the weapon, the way the sight bounces around, there's actually a substantial amount of recoil as well. If you're shooting at someone over 50 meters away and going full auto, it's going to get real messy. You need to pick your targets and burst because the spread starts to grow substantially after 4 or 5 shots. Hipfire is also a massive no-go unless the bad guy is trying to kiss you. The bullet spread when hip firing is massive, and I think that's a great design choice as it forces players to pick their targets and try to panic as little as possible when they're faced with close combat. The players that remain calm, aim down the sight and pick their shots will beat out the guys who circle strafe and hipfire. The shooting mechanics in Warfighter really do reward skill over luck. The bolt-action sniper rifles in particular are delightful to use. The size of them alone and the amount of screen space they take up makes you feel like you're wielding an absolute monster. And when you nail a headshot on someone with a 50 cal and you hear the squelch of their head exploding, it really does put an evil smile on your face as you chamber the next round before sending it into someone else's skull. The peek and lean ability is also very useful for sniping. I rarely use it on assault or any of the other classes, but for sniping it's great for leaning out, taking a pot shot and getting back into cover. Overall, the shooting mechanics and general gameplay lend to a cautious and methodical game style that's very different to Battlefield 3 and Call of Duty Modern Warfare games. When I'm playing Warfighter, I always feel like every kill I get is well deserved, and every time I die it's because I messed up, and not because some overpowered weapon or kill streak has just screwed me over. It's probably a good time to talk about the kill streaks now that I mentioned it, and I do really think they work well in Warfighter. Rack up a few kills or support actions like helping your team out or planting a bomb, and you'll find yourself with an offensive or defensive kill streak. In general, they don't seem overpowered, and the defensive actions you can take are very useful. Say for example you're playing as a sniper, but you've used both of your proximity mines, which are vital for your protection when you hold up somewhere. If you or your buddy call in the appropriate defensive kill streak, you'll both be fully replenished and have 2 new proximity mines to use and cover your back. The offensive kill streaks are the usual guided missiles, mortars or airburst rockets, and whilst they do a lot of damage and can net you multiple kills if you place them in the right area, the enemy team will always get a visual and an audio cue when an enemy rocket or artillery strike is incoming. So if you're paying attention, you can always get into a building and survive if you're quick enough. Again, rewarding skilled and turned on players rather than being overpowered. There's always a counter. Saying that though, I've not really got my head around the Apache kill streak yet though. This is the final kill streak you get, and it seems to control very sluggish when you're the pilot, and the gunner camera just wobbles around everywhere, so it's quite easy to get shot down very quickly. Maybe there'll be adjustments to that in the upcoming patches. Who knows. Map design in general is pretty good. It's obvious that the level designers at Danger Close put a lot of thought into the game's first 8 maps. There's plenty of flanking routes and vertical gameplay on every level. There's also different versions of each map depending on what game mode you're playing, with new areas unlocked for example. Also, with a maximum of 20 players, the maps are quite small, so you're always just around the corner from a new firefight. However, there are at times, especially in the sector control game mode, when spawn trapping occurs. But if you get a couple of fire teams together and break out one of the flanks, you can turn the game around. One big complaint about the map design though is that it does feel very penned in, and you sort of feel like you're in a rat run or a maze sometimes. Obviously this is a purposeful decision by the level designers to force players into choke points in certain areas, but when you have titles like Battlefield 3 and even Bad Company 2, where you can make your own passageways and entrances into buildings, it does feel a little behind the times. Some of the invisible walls are also a problem, and there are a lot of times when I want to just vault over a wall, run across some dirt and jump into a trench, but I can't because I'm being blocked by an invisible wall. So the level design does feel a bit restrictive in that sense. There's also some objects in the game such as leaves, branches and small wooden fences that are impossible to shoot through. Even though it looks like you can shoot through it, you can't, which leads to some frustrating situations. You get the jump on someone, you shoot 15 bullets directly at their face, but they're absorbed by a branch, and then they come round the corner and blast you in the face with a shotgun whilst you're reloading. Moving on now to the netcode, of course something that's of utmost importance in a multiplayer shooter, and I have to say that the hit registration is very good. My experience so far has been great. In general, if you point your crosshair at someone's head, whether they're standing or running, you will get a hit, simple as that. Funnily enough, I haven't yet experienced any deaths around corners or cover, a problem which has plagued Battlefield 3 for more than a year. Honestly, I was expecting Warfighter to have these problems, seeing as it also uses the Frostbite 2 engine, and I'm happy to say, at least for me, those problems have been fixed. Hopefully this will transition to Battlefield 4, as around the corner deaths are still a big problem in BF3, and one of the major things holding it back from being a successful competitive game. Now we're going to talk about the whole Fireteam buddy thing, which I'm sure you've heard of, and honestly I thought it would be a gimmick and barely useful, but it actually adds a constant need for teamwork and communication in the game. Your Fireteam buddy is your best friend. You can heal him and give him ammunition, and he can do the same for you. If he calls in an aggressive kill streak such as the Apache helicopter, you'll get to be the gunner, and if he calls in a defensive support action such as the Fireteam replenish, you'll have all of your equipment and grenades restocked. You can also always see where your Fireteam buddy is. This is dictated by a green glow that you can see through walls, so if you get split up in the confusion of battle, you can find each other easily. Also, if your Fireteam buddy gets killed, you'll see a red outline around the guy that killed him for a few seconds, and if you kill the enemy that nailed your buddy within those few seconds, he'll get a fast respawn and be able to come back into the game quicker than having to wait the full duration. The buddy system works fantastically when you're playing with someone on Skype, and especially with someone who knows how to be a good Fireteam buddy. You really become dependent on your Fireteam buddy. He watches your back, you watch his, and you work together towards an objective. If you're playing solo, however, it can seem a bit useless, especially if your buddy isn't sticking with you or not talking to you over the in-game VoIP. But this is a multiplayer game, and I would hope that most people would be playing with people they know on some sort of chat program, whether it be TeamSpeak or through Xbox Live Party Chat. Medal of Honor Warfighter is very immersive. The sound effects are top notch and on par with Battlefield 3. The visuals are great when running on Ultra, and the screen effects are believable and visceral. Weapon customization is probably some of the best I've seen. I've been told it's similar to Blacklight Retribution. With each change to your weapon stock, optics and barrel for example, you can see how it will affect each stat of your weapon. It's a little overwhelming at first, but once you get used to it, you'll be pimping out your guns in no time at all. As far as I can tell, there aren't any overpowered attachments either, meaning there's a lot of variety on the field and no clear winner. Wrapping things up, I'm going to talk about the longevity of the game. There's a lot of leveling up and unlocking to be done, and as I mentioned, variants of each map for each game mode, so you could easily sink a couple of 100 hours into this game and not get bored. There's also 2 new maps out in December in the Zero Dark 30 map pack to look forward to. In conclusion, I think Warfighter is a solid and cool shooter that deserves praise for the multiplayer. It rewards critical thinking, tactical play, and has a large emphasis on teamwork and communication. I certainly will be playing it a lot in the next couple of months. It really is its own game and not just a variant of Battlefield or COD. I just hope it isn't completely overshadowed by BF3 Aftermath, Halo 4 and Black Ops 2, and people actually give it a shot and sink their teeth into it to really understand the mechanics. So the big question, should you buy it? Well, that's completely up to you, of course. I've only played the final release on PC, and with all my experience and years gaming, I can tell you for certain that it's a good PC multiplayer shooter that deserves your attention. I can't recommend it on Xbox or PS3 because I haven't tried it, and I think that this sort of Twitch hit scan shooter works way better on PC, where you have the precision of a mouse and higher frame rates, prettier graphics and so on. I tried the beta on the Xbox 360 and I found it was sluggish. It was running at sub 30 frames per second and it felt very unresponsive. But then again, I guess it would feel that way if you're a long time PC gamer like myself. There are some good deals on the game at the moment on console and on PC. There are also some codes flying around online for Origin purchases, so you can save yourself some money there. And if you've got Battlefield 3 Premium, you can get 50% off the game by going here and entering your details. Because of that 50% code, I got the digital deluxe version for £25, which is a very good deal on a AAA title like this. It also gave me access to the first DLC, some extra kit in the game, and also guaranteed access to the Battlefield 4 beta. I will definitely be playing plenty of Warfighter with my friends. It's a great multiplayer shooter and I'm sad I spent so much time on this video review when I could have been in game shooting people in the face with a sniper rifle or blasting a corridor down with an AA-12 Terry Crews style. Thanks for watching the video, leave me a rating if you enjoyed it and I'll see you in the next one.
That is cool.